Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Sith Council. I know. I'm sorry. We've been gone for 2 weeks. It was not intentional. 1 week was intentional. Week two was intentional. Week one was not, because I'm just a stupid ass, as they say on the streets. I recorded a whole episode of The Empire Strikes Back with Steph Sabraw. Alas, it did not get saved, or it got deleted, whatever it was. So luckily enough, it was Empire Strikes Back, because I think that if Steph and I wanted to, we could do 17 of these episodes and it would be fine, because it's Empire Strikes Back. So that's what it's going to be. I know that a lot of you guys might have already watched the rewatch or the deep dive on the Spider-Man 2 one that we did today with myself and Winston and Coy. And if you did not, then you should check that out. I know that if you're listening on podcast feed, that's a different feed entirely. So you should go on over to the Big Thing podcast feed and check that out. But this is Star Wars. We're back. We're not taking any more breaks. We are going to be doing Empire Strikes Back today. Return of the Jedi next week. So let's get started here, ladies and gentlemen. I'm ready to get going. I hope you are ready to get going. It is the Sith Council. Let's make it happen.
I can feel your anger. It gives you focus, makes you stronger.
I realized I didn't put the logo. Who cares? At this point, it was a good picture by Brian Ward too. It'll be the thumbnail anyway.
That's why you fail.
That's why I fail. I got a lot done though today, Steph. I just didn't get that done. There she is. Did you go Leia style today? Is that what you did?
Oh yeah, with the white?
Yeah, so not really.
Yes, I did.
You did.
Of course.
Of course.
You know this.
Yeah,
I
right.
planned this weeks ago.
100%. You did. This is what you did last time. You actually dressed as a Wookiee, full Wookiee.
Full Wookiee.
And I messed it
Unfortunately,
up.
I had to shave that because that takes a few weeks for me to build
That's
up
right.
that amount of hair.
Right. Only a few weeks though.
Yeah.
That's the lucky. That's the
It's
lucky
unbelievable.
part. It's the lucky part of your heritage.
Yeah.
So
Put me on Hoth and I'll survive.
You would. Nice and warm. It's good to have everybody back here. I'm excited to have y'all back. And we had a nice trip to New York. It was fun. I know you don't want to talk about it.
I know. It makes me so upset.
Well, next time.
Yeah,
We got
100%.
A lot of events going on next year. So hopefully you can come out to one of those. But that's not why we're here today, Steph.
No.
We're here to talk about Empire Strikes Back. We are doing a deep dive rewatch on all these movies, all the live action films for Star Wars, and going over what we like, what we didn't like, and then ultimately tying that back into how it's going to tie into any of the series. And I think there's a lot to be said about this particular movie. I don't remember a lot of what we talked about in the last one, but I'm sure we'll cover a lot of it. When I'm talking about the one that the lost episode, if you will.
It's lost in the editing room floor.
It was really good, though, too.
Yeah.
We had a really good conversation.
It was great. We're like, that was so easy.
It was so easy because we're talking about Empire. It was so funny. There's a reason it was easy, because it was non-existent.
But one thing's the same.
What's that?
No mic.
No mic. We have microphones. We just don't have mic. No Mike Kalinowski. He missed. The last time he missed it. Though, look, it turns out that it was okay that he missed it last time, because he missed it to do another show that he booked himself on. But this time he had to work. So what are you gonna do? All right, Empire Strikes Back. Mm-hmm. As we said on the top here, that we're going to talk about the things we like and what we don't like. That's going to be tough, because I think this movie's perfect. Mm-hmm. I don't know if there's anything I don't like about this movie.
I know, other than like when I started to compare some of the, when like they switched Palpatine to Ian McDiarmid, that kind of the dialogue, that's like the only thing I don't love, like the switch in the dialogue there.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but
you're saying from the original version?
Yeah, from the original version. But I was thinking, because this isn't my favorite. Return of the Jedi is my favorite, but this is the best Star Wars movie ever created.
Yeah, and it's okay to be wrong that it's not your favorite. It's but at least
I concede to that.
It's perfect.
It's a perfect sci-fi film. It's a perfect sequel. It just blew.
You like Bears with Rocks a lot better, though.
Yes.
Yeah, I understand. That's the original title of the movie. Return of the Jedi was Bears with Rocks.
Bears with Rocks.
I don't mind Return of the Jedi at all. And we'll talk about that next week, but we're not talking about that now. From everything, the way this movie starts out, Aaron Kirshner obviously taking this the directing duties over. Now, what people don't talk about enough is the daunting task of taking over directing a sequel to the biggest movie of all time. Like, it's different when, even today, if a movie today makes $1 billion and then a new person comes in to do a sequel, still a daunting task. But it's not a daunting task when it was the only game in town. There was no other movie that did anything like that. There was no movie that stayed open for a year and people were lined around the theater like the big. Star Wars 1977 was the equivalent to what Hamilton is today, right? Meaning, and when I say that, for what? How do you compare Hamilton to Star Wars? The phenomenon that Hamilton was on Broadway and people lining up and spending the money to go see it and being sold out forever. That's what Star Wars was in movies, and it's kind of unthinkable now because that's not what happens in movies. It's either you miss it in the theater and it comes out on TV a month later, or the HBO Max same day.
And they didn't know back then, I'm sure, how likely it was to get a third movie.
Right.
And they still took massive risks
big swings
in the second movie. In the way that it ends, there's cliffhangers, like everyone's compromised.
Yeah. So, everything. So Kirshner takes over this, and Kirshner was friends with, he was like George Lucas's mentor. Like George looked up to him. I think he was a teacher of his at USC. So he approached him, and George was like so busy because from 77, well, they shot the movie in 79, right? So they shot the first movie in 78, shot the second movie in 79. 76 they shot the first movie, and then the second one they shot in 7. So 3 years later, they're shooting this movie, and George is obviously king of the world at this point. He's doing a lot of different things. It's hard for him to commit to directing, so he brings in Kirshner, but he's got to let over that control because he directed that first movie. So now Kirshner comes in, and now he's the one who has got to take over this franchise that is this global phenomenon. That shows you the kind of cool, calm collectedness of who he was, and that he could do that. But it also, I think the reason why this movie is so special, and everybody's always talked about this, but George Lucas is not great with actors. Just never has been. And by meaning like pulling performances out of him. Like Harrison Ford pretty much had his own playground in the first one, was able to kind of do his own thing and maneuver the performance. But Kirshner is really good with performances. You can see that in this movie. Yeah,
all of them elevated. Every single character elevated in the second movie, and they already established themselves in the first one. So to say that is great direction on his part, because in the first movie you're attached to them, but in the second movie you really start to like humanize them in a dimensional way, and you start to know them better and care about them more and see where they can go. And we have them separated, and you're still attached to them as a group.
Yeah, and that's a great point, because there's these little kind of, he sticks with these serialized adventures that George grew up with and loved, and that's still there throughout the entire movie. And they're just so perfect in this movie. Like from the beginning with Hoth, and they're all collectively together, and that's how we all start out. That's how we know them from the first movie. Here we are, and there's the Wampa that comes out there and cracks Luke in the face, and that whole, and this is the stuff that I think worked in the specialized. We saw more of the Wampa.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, the Wampa is, I love the Wampa scene. And because that scene is one of my favorite scenes, where Luke grabs the lightsaber.
Yeah, it shows you within the time that we've not been with him that he has been becoming more strong in the Force, and he's been training. However he's been training, I think you learn more about that in comics and books and all that stuff, but he's been training, and he's getting more powerful. So when he is upside down, it's like, I can't even tell you when I was a kid how many times I pretended I was in the cave and the Wampa was there and I was getting the lightsaber. You know, I'd put a string next to my toy lightsaber and pull it over, and it's just so iconic at that point. But it's everything that he has to do, and it's the combination. We think that they're all going to be together again because they're all there together. They all start out together. C-3PO is there, R2-D2's there, everybody's there. And then there's this great battle on Hoth. You get to see Luke he's coming into his own even more as a pilot. And
the AT-ATs are so sick.
It's a great kind of wartime thing, and it just shows you from start to finish that this is the Empire's movie. It's like, oh yeah, look, we knocked out a couple of them, yeah, but they're gonna blow up everything and they're gonna invade the base
and find you in a remote planet.
Yeah, and it just shows you, and I think you brought this up on the Lost episode, of how devastating of a villain Vader becomes in this episode.
Yeah, that's probably my favorite part about him and Yoda. I think Darth Vader and the Yoda stuff is so like just lives with you forever, and like one side of it being one of the greatest heroes and one being the best villains ever. Darth Vader's lines are so cutting, and he's just an evil jerk the entire film, and he just gets so much worse, but he needs to be that way.
You know why he's also more devastating in this one? Because he has a clear-cut motive.
Yeah.
In the first movie, he was just kind of like Tarkin's pit bull.
Exactly.
And he was there to get the plans and make sure that he was doing the Empire's bidding. You know, he had something to do, but he's got a pure agenda here. And that's why actually I think we're in disagreement of I love the new lines from the Emperor, because it shows, I think it ties together the prequels really well.
Yeah.
I think it ties together the overall arc of Vader trying to figure out the thing with his son. And if you find that from the comics, he knows, by the way, he's lying to the Empire. He knows already about.
Yeah, that's
Luke.
okay. So that's the part that I think bothered me, is that because obviously when the original Darth Vader knows about Luke, he's pursuing Luke. That's how he's able to find him. But he's telling
he doesn't. But he doesn't know in the original in New Hope. He doesn't know that it's his son, because he's flying around and he's like, the Force is strong with this one. He doesn't know. He just knows. That's all he knows. But I'm pretty sure, and people who are more caught up in the comics and the canon can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that Boba Fett gives him the information on Luke's name. And again, it's not a tough, unless Skywalker name is kind of like Smith in you know,
space.
Yeah, because otherwise, why would you put a Skywalker on Tatooine if he's the only Skywalker? Because okay, then that means that Vader's gonna be able to find him pretty quick, but. Nonetheless, it seems like I remember him knowing that Luke is his son, but even in this whole conversation that he has him, search your feelings, Vader, you know it to be true, and whatever he says to him, and he's just, and then he has that, and then Vader has that moment. It's like, if he could be an ally, it's like, yes, can it be done? He will join us or die. It's like, I love that whole thing of just like, okay, then that's because that sets up. That's the motivation. That's it. That is what Vader wants. Because at that point, it's not about just doing the Empire's bidding. This is about the Sith code. This is about, okay, this is my son. This is my opportunity to overthrow this old bag and take the Empire. Remember, Revenge of the Sith, my Empire. He knows I can destroy him, and whatever he says he tells Padme, you and I can run the galaxy. He's been looking for someone. That's what the Sith, Palpatine wants him to do that. That's what the Sith want. The Sith want an apprentice that can become powerful enough to overthrow you. I ain't going to let you do it, but the goal is that you've got to become more powerful to overthrow me. That's the goal. That's what Bane set up. That's whatever. That's Plagueis, all of it. And that scene is just, that's him going, because he says to Luke at the end, the Emperor's foreseen it. Join me. Let's do this.
Take over the galaxy. Together.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. It's like it makes Darth Vader so much cooler because it gives him his own agency, which was my problem in the first movie. And you hope you're wondering where his agency is, and obviously it lies with Palpatine, which I get it because that's his master.
Right.
But you want to believe in this is the villain now. You want to take over, and then finally when he has his son and he's starting to get this plan, you're like, okay, I can see where this goes.
Yeah. And
in a way, you kind of like, what would the world look like if Luke did join forces with him?
Well, I mean, yeah, that's ultimately what happened. And that's why I want to see that what if Anakin didn't, right? I want to see what happens there. I would love to see that series if they ever made that what if for Star Wars. But when it's funny because depending on how you watch these movies for the first time, because a lot of people watch them differently. If you watch it from episode 1 through, then you watch this movie and when you see that scene, you say, oh, well, he knows that it's his son. Like as we're talking right now, that's how we're talking about it. But when you watch it for the first time, if it's the second movie that you've ever seen, then all you think is, well, wait a minute, this is the son of Anakin, and we know Vader killed Anakin because that's what Obi-Wan told us. So it's so interesting and so fun how you can watch these movies and how you can take them in. There's no wrong way to watch them. It's like, do you want to be invested in the fact that you already know that it's Anakin, or do you want to be invested in the fact of I'm going to take the ride as it came out originally?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Like, you can take which side you want to go into the story with, but every single time when they're about to meet up, the tension buildup is so unreal and
You mean
good.
up until Bespin?
Yes.
When the two of them fight?
Yes.
Yeah. It's the best.
It's the best.
Everything about it. I mean, even the lines, and you're talking about all the lines that he has, right? Even when he the first time we see that the helmet coming down, you see the scarred head. That's fantastic. That's the first time we really ever see the scarred up Vader, Anakin, and he's just and he's so pissed off at the dude in the beginning where he's just saying he's as clumsy as he is stupid. And they came out of hyperdrive way too fast, hyperspace too fast, and alerted the rebels to their presence, and the rebels were able to prepare.
Yeah.
The first transport is away. All of that. But there's so much. It's just the movie just cooks from the second it starts.
It
just
feels
cooks.
like 20 minutes.
Yeah.
It goes by so fast because, like you were saying, it has those like serial stories within it. Like, we talked about this, like the asteroid field going through with Han and
the music,
so
everything,
good. And then they go into. It's like a space slug. What's the?
I don't remember. Yeah. Ask one of our Star Wars competitors.
Goth, I think, something like that.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Yeah, but and that's why I think we definitely talked about that last time. I'm so curious because of the way space works, and people always forget about it because it's just like a space fantasy. But the way that space works in general is that how long has that planet been destroyed that space worm is on? Right, like that was a planet at one point, and that's where that thing has just been living and keeping itself alive. Like, is billions of years, it just get blown up. Like what? The fact that it's still there and they had all that, like, and the asteroid field and going through it. And we buried the lead a little bit too because we really dove into the relationship of Han and Leia in this one. This is where it blossoms. This is where it blooms. This is where you see the evolution of the Han Solo that we, there's this. He's got the hard edge, but he's come around a little bit. They respect him on the base. But he's got to get back and pay off his debts. And Leia ain't happy about it.
No, it makes the movie so much better because you have Luke going off and becoming a Jedi training.
Right.
But if you don't have the romance between them, it's not as dimensional as a movie. Like, it makes it so good because it's not in your face. It's not like a rom-com or anything like that. It's just like a true love story that you see blossoming and two people who are really flawed in their own right and then kind of growing together, getting back, taking away their pride, especially on Han's side.
Well, and both their shells have to come down because or come out of their shells because you look at Leia and she's just all business.
All business.
That's it. And then she's pissed off at him. So go do your thing, whatever. And he's just like, come on, there's that hallway scene. And that hallway scene where there's just certain movies that just catch all the magic breaks. Because if you watch that scene in the hallway, they goes longer. It's a longer scene. They wind up going back and cutting it brilliantly where he just goes, you could use a good kiss.
Yeah.
And it cuts. Perfect. In the extended version, like he comes back again, and it's like unnecessary. And that's the editor. That's I think Marshall Lucas was cutting them at the time, but that's also Kirshner going no. And we had mentioned off camera, you were joking about the line of "I love you, I know," and it's this iconic moment in Star Wars. Some people know this, some people don't. I think most people do. That it was an improv line by Harrison Ford, and when they screen tested it, well, before that happened, George Lucas saw it and hated it. Said, that's not what I wrote on the page. He's supposed to say, I love you too. And they screen tested it, and he was waiting for the audience to hate it too, and they didn't. They loved it. Finally, man. And that's what I remember reading from a bunch of different things, and I think it was How Star Wars Conquered the Universe by Chris Taylor. I believe it. But anyway, there's just those magic moments.
Yeah, because it's a risky line because, if you just take it at base value and you don't actually know Han and where his heart is, you're like, what a dick.
Yeah.
And it still is kind of a jerk sentiment, but he really means it.
He does it with charm.
He's like, I love you too, baby. You can see it in his eyes.
That's how he says I love you. Yeah. That's how he does it. And and like there's so many big like the droids have stuff to do in this. Chewy has stuff to do. Like as limited as it is, and then you look at the stuff with Lando. And everything, like the way that they set up Lando, and he comes in and he gives him that hug. That's why I think the Solo hug kind of devalues a little bit. Different conversation, but he comes in, they set this thing up like they're good friends, and there's these moments of you believe, okay, so it's Billy Dee Williams. Look at that charming smile, and
he's
then he's
so charming, hitting on Leia.
Oh, it's so great, and that's also where you start to see more of Han becoming more protective and realizing that his act that he's putting on is an act because he's so protective of her, and it's coming out more of how much he really cares about her. But then that whole setup, and this is why I love the special edition of Empire. This is the stuff that really benefits from it. In the original cut, it's just a bunch of walls. In the extended, in the special, there's you see outside, you see Bespin, you see everything flying around, you see Cloud City. It's fantastic. It's fantastic the way that it looks. But it's there's so many twists in this movie, like from the Yoda reveal, from obviously the main Shakespearean one with "I'm your father," but the Lando double turn. He's got a heel turn and a face turn within the same hour, and it works. It's not like
because you still like him.
Yes,
because you get it. 'Cause you have no idea what Darth Vader was threatening on him and the entire city. So I totally get it, and I love how he turned like back and was able to get them to safety. But
he wasn't making the deal just to be selfish.
No,
he was making the deal to protect his investment, to protect his people, and he was screwing over his friend in the time that this was all taking place. But then he realizes, I gotta help. I can't, and it's very similar to like Han, and you see why they get along. Yeah,
totally.
Yeah.
Han in the first movie didn't want to be any part of helping for the better good. It was all about him, and it's the same thing with Lando. But then you see him turn. And
Lando has a lot of moments though throughout it that you're like, well, he's not a bad guy, because even when they said that when they're gonna carbon freeze Han, he's like, we never tested this on humans. Where he says like you could kill him, and he's like, yeah, you'll be. I think he says to Boba Fett that you'll be well compensated if he does. Like that's just Boba Fett. But to Lando, I think it was Lando just was more concerned about it, and it's I don't know. It just to me is you see a lot with Lando and Billy do what he does that you never hate him. You're like, oh, why'd you do that? But you never hate him.
No, he's so charming. Yeah. And when he brings Han into the room, they bring out a lot of each other too. Like when Han just shoots at Vader on sight. Right. I love that scene because Han just is fearless.
Shooting at his future father.
Hey, Dad.
I know. How many people want to do that? But he takes the blaster away from him, and he goes, "Join us for welcome." And they sit down. They have It's all of it, like the plan that's in place. And Vader just, like, that whole thing after they torture Han and he comes in, they get him ready for the carbon freezing, because they never even ask me any questions. And he's all
ruthless.
It's ruthless because they just know the plan. The plan is always about Luke. It's nothing to do with them. And that's why then it all ties back into the Yoda stuff. And then we talked about this briefly, and I think Abby Friel was the one who posted this on our TikTok a while back. I never knew until about a year ago that Yoda's hut was a spaceship, was a space pod. Never realized
never knew that.
Yeah.
I would have never picked that up.
If you look at it, it's a space pod.
The stuff with Yoda is so good. The entire set for that scene is unbelievable. And then the introduction to him, to pull off this puppet is such an achievement, and you don't even question it.
The movie's a disaster.
Yeah. It's a freaking green puppet who's like talking in a gargled voice, but it's like a Bible. Like we take lessons from Yoda for everything.
Yeah. I mean, how many times do you say do or do not? There's no try.
Yeah. I mean, all the time.
All the time. You quote it all the time. That is why you fail. Every single time. And it's just so much that he does. But that's why I think that I always recommend when people ask me how they introduce it to their kids. Like when I introduced it to my oldest, I showed her 4, 5, and 6 first, because I think that it's good to get these reveals and then go back, or you could do 4 and 5 and then jump back. But like I'm going to try, I don't know if my youngest is going to even care about Star Wars, but if we try it, I'm going to go 4, 5, and 6 with her, because the Yoda stuff to me is the stuff I remember as a kid going, oh, who's this Jedi? And this is this little green monster popping around, and he's funny, and he's eating and he's eating this stuff, and he's banging on that's the only thing that's the only thing that bothers me though about the prequel stuff is they don't wipe R2's memory. So why doesn't R2 remember Yoda?
Yeah. Or say anything. Or maybe it was a part of the plan. Yeah, R2D2
don't say anything to Luke. I know, but come on. I mean, at that, and if he lands into the mush and the thing's spitting him out, he's gonna say, look, Luke, I'm going to give you a little help. Yoda, we're looking for. He's the little guy. It's a come on. And Obi-Wan saying, don't tell him. It's like that's the only stuff that always bothered me about that's why I think it was problematic to have R2D2 and C-3PO be the droids. The one thing I say about the new trilogy that I think, even though I think that they totally didn't use C-3PO or R2 at all, and they should have. By taking a swing at new droids, it allowed you to just meet new droids.
Yeah.
And they didn't have to fit into everything. And I think that if you would have met new droids in the prequel, it takes away this problem of, well, why doesn't R2 know Yoda when they go to Dagobah?
Yeah, because they're computer systems. Like,
Yeah,
of course they were.
I understand. C-3PO, you can say, well, his memory was wiped. Okay, fine. But why not R2's?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Wipe both their memories.
Yeah, in R2's like in it. Like he
knows
obviously
everything. He was there from
everything.
Naboo. I mean, everything. So like, why would you not? And all the information that he could have helped out with on episode 4, and he's not telling anybody anything because it's like he knows this. It's like, oh, yeah. This is where we picked you up. Anakin made you here in this place that we're going right now.
R2's been through so much. Though. He's been flipped and dipped and
I know,
thrown.
true. Maybe he had a concussion.
He might be concussed.
Maybe he had a concussion.
How do you feel about the fact that Obi-Wan said Yoda was his trainer and not Qui-Gon? Like, do you?
That's another thing. I mean, it's there's things you just gotta brush off to the side. They'll make some fixes to it in the Obi-Wan series, and he just kind of ignores the fact that Qui-Gon was, but Obi-Wan bringing up Yoda, training him. I mean, he did train him. He just wasn't. He never says he was my master.
Yeah, that's true.
Says he trained me.
That's true.
So technically, certain point of view, he's not lying.
Yeah, I wish Yoda trained me. Dang.
Yeah,
life would be a lot different.
Well, Yoda didn't have a great track record either. Look at Count Dooku.
That's true.
So
I read when was it? Like last time we were doing this, that Alec Guinness shot all his scenes in one day and made like 1%.
For Empire. For Empire.
1% or like 0.5% of the film's grossings, and it was millions.
Of course.
I'm a gangster.
He went to sleep on a bed of cash.
Gangster.
Yeah, I mean, well, because I think that was the thing that people were shocked, because Alec Guinness was the biggest star cast in New Hope. So when he dies, they're like, whoa, what are you going to do now? And it's like, and don't worry, you'll be able to come back as the Force. And Alec Guinness didn't know what the hell was. I was funny.
Sure.
I was watching the movies that we love on Netflix. You ever watch this series?
I did the toys that we loved. I love that.
Okay,
one.
it's the same.
Yeah.
It's the same people,
Yeah,
but it's
yeah,
the boys, the toys, the movies that we love. And I just watched the one on Halloween, and it reminded me of Alec Guinness because they got Donald Pleasance to do the main role in Halloween. The whatever his name is. Sorry, I love Halloween, but
Mike Myers.
No, not Mike Myers, but the doctor, Dr. Loomis.
Dr. Loomis.
And anyway, so that he was the same type of thing. What they got him on, and he didn't know what the hell he got himself into, and he was getting all pissy about being on it, and worried that he was getting hammered on the set, and not wanting to be a part of it, and saying that they were going to embarrass him. And it turns out to be the biggest horror movie. The movie was made for $300,000, and it made something like, I don't know, was it $100 million or $300 million or something sick, something ridiculous. The amount of money that it made for $300,000.
Yeah, it's still making
$80 million. I can't remember what it was. Yeah, still making to this day. I'm just saying when it came out, but
unbelievable.
It reminded me of the Alec Guinness stuff. But then, like you say, couple that with come back for the sequels, and we'll give you shoot for a day, and we'll give you a percentage of it. Maybe it's part of the toys. I don't know what the hell he got, but his grandkids, his great grandkids,
they're good.
They don't have to do anything. They're
Nothing.
sleeping on a couch right now, stoned out of their faces. That's
one
all
of the
they're
greatest films of all time.
That's it.
You filmed in one day.
One day, done. But that whole angle with, you will find Yoda on Dagobah. I know you're going to survive, kid. You'll be fine. And then we talked about, I'm still convinced, people argue with me all the time that they think that George Lucas had a plan as far as what was what, and that Luke and Leia were
who
sisters.
Was the other one?
No shot. They're kissing each other. I think that because they still didn't really know. There was debate during this that they were going to kill Han. Ford wanted to die in Bespin. He wanted out. He wanted that line to be thing, and then he thought that Han should die. It would be a dramatic death, and I think that at one point they thought about it, but then they realized that they couldn't do it. They wanted to bring him back for the third one and all that. But I think that the love triangle was supposed to be Luke and Leia, and then Han dies, and then it ultimately turns out to be Luke and Leia.
You think originally, and then when do you think that plan changed? When the making of the second film?
I think afterwards. I think after the second film. Maybe, I don't know, maybe during. I can't remember what they said as far as when. I mean, you'll never get a clear answer from if you talk to George Lucas. He always knew Vader was Luke's father. No, he didn't.
Yeah, because the the kiss was.
Yeah, and the whole legacy, the whole thing with Darth Vader, the Darth being a title for the Sith, that came out later on too, because his name is Darth in the first one. Obi-Wan even calls him Darth. No one calls no one calls anybody Darth now.
No, and Darth Vader would have. I also feel like felt Leia's presence too,
right?
And maybe he did when it was more powerful when the two were together,
right?
But yeah, but I do think in the sense that the second movie, it's so Han and Leia in love. The first movie, you're kind of questioning what she's gonna do,
right?
But by the end of the first movie, it's so them. Yes. That's the love story.
100%, and I think that's and it plays and it definitely. There's so much going on throughout this movie with the different relationships and how Vader, again we talked about it, Vader and Luke, Han and Leia, the Yoda stuff and the training and everything that just
pulling the X-wing out of
so much. There's it's very, very powerful. What else is powerful? Well, I didn't tell you about it last week, and I wanted to. MeUndies, ladies and gentlemen, they're back. We're excited to have them back, and I hope. I'm gonna ask you a question, everybody out there. Are you afraid of glow in the dark? Shield your eyes, everyone, because the new MeUndies Halloween just dropped. Dead. There's one collection you don't want to ghost. It is going to be this one with 5 new prints to turn up the terror. You should summon them before it's too late. I talk about MeUndies. I am wearing MeUndies at the moment. They're comfortable. They're relaxed. I like them very much. And we talked about this, Steph, if you're at a Halloween party and the dude you're with is going into the Halloween spirit, guys are having some fun, and he's got Halloween underwear.
You understood the assignment.
You get it.
Yes,
you're having fun. They're relaxed.
Love it.
You love it.
10 points.
100 points. So whether you're outrunning a killer or being abducted by aliens this Halloween, you got to be comforted by the fact that your undies are sustainable and the softest in town. They really are super soft. MeUndies are made from natural fiber sourced from beechwood trees, making their micro-modal fabric soft, breathable, and dangerously cozy. Get your spooky season up and haunting with 5 new prints. There's I See You, My Boo, Tricks and Treats, Lazy Bones, and Lazy Pumpkin. They're available in undies, bralettes, socks, and loungewear in sizes extra small through 4XL. There are a lot of options to consider, but make a decision quickly because there's somebody right behind you. MeUndies has a great offer for Sith Council listeners for any first-time purchasers. You're going to get 15% off and free shipping. MeUndies also has a promise. If you're not satisfied with any product for any reason, you can return your order for a full refund with 45 days to go. To get 15% off of your first order and free shipping and 100% satisfaction guarantee, what more do you need there? Go to MeUndies.com/Sith, S-I-T-H. That's MeUndies.com/Sith. I am a massive fan of MeUndies. We've been using them since, the Schmoes Know days. And,
really?
Oh, yeah. So they've been around for a while. We've been with them for a while. I always get excited. The socks, loving the socks that they have. They have customized socks. The other day I had their socks on and little
nothing like new socks.
Like pizza slices on them. And the little one goes, pizza slices. And I was like, they have a lot of great stuff. So check it out if you haven't checked it out. It was as we jump back into it. I'm trying to think. There was something else I want. The lightsaber fights. In this one is still, this is one that my dad and I used to do all the time, and there's that line, one of my favorite lines that my dad would quote quite often is when he thinks that he's taken out the Luke, and he goes, all too easy, and that's the first part, and then he jumps out and he goes, impressive, most impressive.
So good.
Yeah.
I love how this movie is such a father-son bonding movie.
It is in a bizarre, sick way.
Right? It's like flipped, and it's like, this is what we're not going to do, son.
Yeah. Well, because when because when you're watching with your dad, absolutely. When you're watching what the relationship between the two of them, because even that scene where Vader's like trying to teach him, and in the dark side, but he's trying to teach him where he says because he's toying with him at first. He's playing with him. He has a lightsaber fight with him. Luke kind of cracks him.
Luke comes in so cocky.
Yes.
And is not listening to Yoda and is going to get work done.
He's leading the emotion. He's leading with emotion. He goes in there and he knocks Vader off the platform, and he's feeling good about himself. He's feeling himself. And then once he gets to that platform And Vader's like, yeah, I'm kind of done with the lightsaber fights. And he starts chucking stuff at him. And he's like banging him in the head. He's just standing back. He could have taken him out right there. He's just slapping him in the head with like heavy equipment and throws him out the window. And he's like, all right, well, you survived. I'll come down now. I'm going to finish the job. And then he really gets pissed off because then Luke slaps him on the shoulder with the lightsaber. And then he's like, okay, enough. And he cuts his hand off. I mean, it's your son. We know at that point that it's his son, and he just slices his hand off. We'll get you a new one.
Yeah. He's like, this is going to be a good lesson.
Yeah, he's like, don't worry, Dooku did the same to me. He's like, we'll get you a new one. And he's just, and that's when the whole thing comes in. He has that whole conversation with them, and the whole Sith moment of, join me. Let's take out the Empire. It's me and you. It's father. Let's rule it as father and son. It's still one of the most powerful scenes in cinematic history.
Yeah, because how do you say no to your dad, you know?
Especially when you try to figure out if it's really your dad.
Yeah, you're confused.
Right. Why would Obi-Wan lie to me?
Yes, you've been told your whole life that, or you found out that Darth Vader killed your father.
Yeah.
Apparently, this man is a genocidal maniac.
Right.
And then, but you've always probably wanted a dad deep down, missed your real dad. And then he's like, I'm your dad. You're my dad.
It's terrifying, and it's also that, and it's even where he starts, and you're right, because he starts to accept it when he's on the Falcon at the end after they rescue him, and Vader kind of has that more softer moment where he's like, Luke, and he's like, Father. He just pops up and just says, it's in him like right away. He just knows it, and we do feel that because there's that. We jump back to that's what I wanted to get to when Yoda says there is another. Mm-hmm. They still haven't really played, and everybody still to this day assumes it's Leia, right? You could still play with that, and whether it's Obi-Wan inside of the series and how because the thing that throws me off about when Obi-Wan says that boy is our last hope. So you would assume that he would know that Leia, because they separated the kids together. Mm-hmm. So he would know, unless he never knew that Leia was Force sensitive. And that's what they want to play at, because Yoda goes, no, there's another. Is the other Ahsoka? Is the other someone else? It's always, and even with Rise of Skywalker from the training and everything, it's always kind of inferred that it is Leia. But there's so much that you could kind of play with there. But what we do see is the reason why they definitely lean towards, and this is another reason why I don't think that they were set up to be brother and sister, is because when Yoda says there was another, and I do think it was intended to be Leia, because at the end of this movie, she can talk to Luke. Yeah. And she says to Luke, Luke, Leia, hear me. And like that whole thing, and like, oh, wow, that she's the other one, but I don't think they were intended to be brother and sister. No, I think that she was supposed to be the other Jedi. I think she was supposed to be the other one, and then we find out, but then they switched it up and said, what if they make it? I like the idea of like, what if we make them brother and sister? They were separated by the Empire. And it's great. Oh, they're going to lose their minds. And it worked, but it's just, and then it starts to tie into like, you've got to, I just think Lucas, the same way that David Chase disregards a lot of stuff that he set up in the series to say, nah, it'll be fine. People forget things, and we don't forget things. We know it's got to make sense in the overall thing of it. That's why I make such a big deal about the droids. You know, which I just never. The droids is one of my biggest problems. It's like wipe their memories or don't make them droids.
And like I'm so with, I think that the story I choose to tell myself is that it's 100% Leia that we're talking about the whole time. Yeah. But the part that you just can't deny is that I think in the 70s, when you make the first movie, there's no way you're setting up a kiss that's going to be siblings. No, you just can't, that's a massive risk that they might take now.
100%.
But not in the 70s.
No, not where it's like, oops. Like, oh, yeah, they just didn't know. It's like, no.
Imagine being in the writing room. Okay, so get this. They're going to later find out they're siblings, but we're going to make them kiss.
We're going to give them a good kiss.
No one's doing that.
Because he's infatuated with her in the first one.
Yeah.
In the second one, he's still down with her, right? And in the third one, during the second and third one, when they find out the sister, he didn't give a crap anymore.
No.
Yeah, he was on his own. Now he realizes it's his sister. That's weird.
Yeah.
I'm not doing that anymore.
Yeah.
It's like, but either way, it works. It all works. It just it does make that moment very powerful when Leia,
when he calls to her.
Yeah.
That was one scene too, because the new edits, they added in a scream or a yell when he jumps.
But they got rid of it.
Oh, they did?
It's not in there anymore.
Okay.
Which one did you watch? Did you watch one recently? Because they got that. Yeah, they got rid of that.
Okay, good. Because that, or maybe I just wasn't looking for it yesterday. When that happened, I was annoyed because
they added that in there.
He willfully jumped.
Yeah, they got rid of it. At least, I mean, I'm pretty sure, because that was a big. What you just said was a big complaint from everybody. Like, he jumped. That scream is so stupid.
Yeah, I think they actually changed that in 3 years ago.
Yeah,
I think it's
maybe even more. But it's that was out of the stuff that I didn't like. But that was, I don't know if that was that put into the special editions?
I forget.
Was that just put
it was like one of the last
though.
times I watched it before we did the rewatches.
Yeah.
I remember being like, what?
When this is over, we'll go back and watch. But I don't remember it being in there when I watched the other day.
Probably wasn't, because I remember it getting a lot of backlash, as it should, because it changes the way that you view Luke's decision to do that.
Right. Why did he? Because he jumped.
Because he was so devastated at the news he found out. He just got his hand chopped off.
And he felt, because you look at the face that he makes when he looks down there, he's just like, all right, I'm either going to stick around here and go with this lunatic and my fate is toast and we lose, or I'm going for it. And he went for it. And there's no screaming in that. There's no screaming in baseball. and he jumped. And I watched it the other day. I don't remember hearing it at all.
Okay, good. They probably marked it
I think
off.
that's gone.
I was just thinking of like all the added dialogue. Yeah, that was probably gone.
It's gone. I would have picked that up. I would have remembered. I would have put it back in. I haven't heard it in years.
Yeah.
Like, since it happened. But anyway, all that, and then the stuff I really liked, even though the stuff that I think does tie in very well to Solo that they did, was that Lando never says Han. He always says Han.
Yeah.
Han. We can. There's no way to save Han. And it's like, and Chewie's just choking him, like, and that whole thing at the end when they want to go back for Luke, and he's like, we got to get out of here, and Chewie just growls at him like, all right. And then the fact that it is weird. It was always weird to me that Lando is wearing Han's jacket. Is that that's in the third one, but like he's wearing his vest in the third one that I always thought was pretty weird.
Well, it's like and I guess they pulled that with Poe and Finn too.
They always do that kind of stuff. So I mean, is there what is the major moments? And we should talk about how stuff ties in.
Yeah,
right.
I was just about to.
Boba Fett.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. The Boba Fett stuff is so sick and well done because there's not a lot of attention drawn to him, but Darth Vader with everybody else has zero respect and like isn't even in conversations with. Right. But with Boba, there's a camaraderie there.
No disintegration.
Yeah, and so this man like no disintegration. So you're just disintegrating people.
He's worked. You can tell he's worked with them before. Yeah, and they play that into the comics and stuff, and that's how it's worked out. But yeah, Boba Fett. So for people, this is the first time we see him in live action, not including this last time. We mentioned something about animated, and someone's like, no, the first time he appears in animated. Yes, he appears in the holiday special and the animated thing, and then shows up. That's his first debut. He debuted in the holiday special, the Christmas special. That's the first time.
Don't disrespect Boba.
I know,
like
that's the first time he ever showed up. But in the live action movies, like to most people, he shows up in Empire and all of the bounty hunters and all that. And so how that all ties in, and I don't know. I know that the Disney Plus day is coming up pretty soon.
Yeah, November 4th.
Is it November 4th? So I would bet the house that you're going to see a trailer for Boba Fett because they're airing it at the end of the year. So I would assume that. I still don't really know what the whole show is about. I'm crossing my fingers that the book of Boba Fett is just chapters throughout his life that tie into the Tatooine stuff and everything that has happened. We see him get out of the Sarlacc pit. We see in between stuff what happens between Empire Strikes Back, and this could potentially tie into that. Like what happened after that moment in leading up to it, or him and Vader ever working together. That's something we haven't talked about, by the way, is will Vader show up in the Boba Fett movie, right? I mean, the Boba Fett series.
Yeah.
And most people say no because he's dead. But if they're flashing back and he shows up, no one would be expecting it. And it'd be one of those water cooler moments that everybody, because if you start to see parts of his life throughout the duration that we know him, we know that he's worked with Vader a handful of times. So how crazy?
That's a really good point.
Yeah.
And they definitely, if you're already shooting with whoever's going to be in the Vader suit,
right,
then you could definitely make cuts for Boba at the same time as you're doing Obi-Wan.
And not bring him in and say, hey, we know that we have so and so working on, because everyone just assumes that Hayden's going to be in the suit.
But I don't know.
think so. I think Hayden, and I think the Obi-Wan series obviously definitely ties into the Empire as well. But I think they're going to deepfake Hayden to make him look 10 years younger or whatever it might be, which is not going to be hard at all.
No, he's aged really well.
Yeah, it's gonna be super easy to do. They're just gonna take his face, take his performance, and just de-age him a bit, and that's all. And I think with Ewan McGregor, you really don't have to do much either. You just take a couple things.
They both look so good.
It's going to be one of the easier ones to deepfake. So I think they're going to use a lot of Hayden Christensen and we're going to see Clone Wars stuff and like things that they like moments that they had together. You don't need him in the suit. I think it's a waste to just have him in the suit. If you have like one of those moments
for
where
Obi-Wan or for
Obi-Wan,
yeah,
for Obi-Wan. So
100%.
So
I will be upset if he's only in the suit.
If look, if there's that moment like they had in Rebels in season 2 when Ahsoka slashes him and like you see half his Anakin's face, cool. I'd love to see him in the suit and you see his actual face, but I don't need them to what they're doing to Pedro Pascal. And Pedro Pascal is in the entire series, and even though Anakin will be in a lot of this, it's still to waste Hayden Christensen and just putting him in a suit. I can't imagine in a million years that would happen.
No, and it would just be a missed opportunity, I feel like, to miss the Obi-Wan Anakin connection.
Right.
Like some flashbacks of that relationship before you have him in the suit.
Yes, and it leads up to and that's why bringing into the Boba Fett, like you said, if you have somebody who's in the suit that's just kind of like the way that David Prowse was in this hulking suit, that you can do that. You can bring him in there. You can have those moments, and I think it'll be a fun reveal. He doesn't need to be, and this is the same thing with people. Like this is when I hear those silly arguments of how they think Star Wars is always making the world smaller. If they bring in the characters, if they focused on Vader and Vader started to become the overall lead character in every series, then I'm with you. But if he shows up during a Boba Fett episode, which would make sense because they've already established that they had a relationship, then it would make sense. And then it's the same reason why Luke made sense.
Yeah, and it's not making it smaller when you're talking about the one character whose plan was to take over the entire galaxy.
At that time period.
At their strongest point.
He would be around.
It just proves how powerful that they were.
Right. It's there's a lot that could tie into all of this, because you got to see this is the build up, because the Empire is so strong in this film. Obviously, Empire Strikes Back, but it's the lead up. It's how they kind of took over. This is the other reason I really love this movie. I think the most is that it doesn't rely on one particular weapon that's going to destroy everything. Right? Like I love Rogue One, but it's still about the Death Star.
Yeah.
Right. It's about
that's smaller scale.
It's smaller scale.
Sure.
It's the rebels. It's the rebels trying to take out the Death Star, because we know that that's what has to happen, as we see in the opening crawl. Episode 4, it's the first movie, so it's great to introduce the Death Star for the very first time. But then in Jedi, the Death Star comes back, and then Starkiller Base comes into Force Awakens, and then it's like it's just one thing after the next, and then in the Skywalker, there's this cockamamie thing, whatever the hell the Empire or the Emperor came with those ships and all this, Sith, all that stuff. It's always one particular weapon this wasn't that.
No,
this was just the Empire causing mayhem with their agents of chaos.
Planet by planet, like story by story. I completely agree. And then tying back to the Boba Fett series, I wonder if we do get some of the bounty hunters that we saw there, because we have IG-88, Forlom, Bosk.
But I think you're going to see Bosk.
Yeah, I want Bosk and Cad Bane.
He's already showed that species in Mandalorian again, So remember, because when he's with Grogu for the first time, and so I think Cad Bane is very interesting to me. I'm hoping that they have him show up, but
a live action. Cad
because
Bane.
It's just a matter of at what point in time period does Boba Fett take place, right? Andor, I don't see really tying into this at all. I mean, maybe the look and feel of the ships and the Empire, and like
because we're way before.
Yeah, I mean, it's before New Hope.
Yeah.
So but it's in the general period of that. But like even though Obi-Wan is even way before that. I see that tying in more because of the mythology
Yeah.
and everything that has been set up through all of that. And it's a matter of, will we see Yoda on Dagobah in the Obi-Wan series? They're communicating. We know they're communicating, you know? So that would be interesting, because if Yoda shows up in Obi-Wan, like even through it, because in Rebels they established the connection that they're able to talk to and have, and this is Filoni's philosophies. He's already shown this with Ahsoka and the stuff that they've done, the way that they're playing into the Rebel storylines. You very well could see Obi-Wan communicating with Yoda, because Yoda's alive at this point. He's not dead. Like, and I think you'll see him communicating with Qui-Gon, who is dead.
Definitely.
So all of that, and I think that all ties back to Empire, and really started to get the communication of the Force ghosts and visually seeing them for the first time, and where you see Obi-Wan as he appears in Hoth and has that whole conversation, and then communicating with Luke, telling him that you can't go, dude. Like, you can't.
Yeah, don't do it.
Don't do it. Look, we can't. We can't interfere this time. And I like those rules that are set up. Like, they can't interfere with certain things, and like the whole cave with Dagobah, because Luke is very similar to Anakin. Like, it's just something that Mark Hamill had, I think, and I think it's more about the direction than it is Hamill versus Hayden. Is that
their attitude?
Well, the direction is Kirshner versus Lucas, who was doing the prequels at the time, who just kind of gave, do this, stand there, turn your head, do that, as opposed to the motivation that I think that Hamill got. And because you look at, they're both equally annoying.
Yeah, like when he's like, "That's impossible, Yoda."
Yeah,
like,
he's annoying, but there's something charming about him, and there's something still boyish about him. There's something where he's likable. Hayden got more likable as I think, from in between clones and Sith, for sure. He got more. He's more likable in Sith than he is in. I mean, he's
100%.
It's unbearable in Attack of the Clones.
In some parts, definitely.
Yeah, he's just yes, man.
I have a soft spot.
Yeah, because he's attractive. Yeah, but come on.
And I was so young.
Yeah.
It was so, I wasn't like a young 10-year-old critic. Like,
yeah, right.
I hate the way he portrayed.
Oh, to you,
I was like,
so my daughter, who's 9 years old, watches Lord of the Rings. She's like, Legolas is cute.
I love Lego. She knows what's up.
She knows what's up. But anyway, so there's so much going on, and the other thing, by the way, and this is something that myself and Steph have definitely been telling you guys about, and I'm excited to tell you a little bit more about it again. Headspace. Steph, you love Headspace.
I love Headspace. Headspace has changed my life for the past few years.
So
my favorite app.
You told me, because when Headspace first came about, I didn't know. You hear things, and I was skeptical if meditation is going to help anybody, but using the app just for a few minutes every day just helps you feel better from letting go of just unnecessary stress to moving forward in life without anxiety. You really have to just try it. You feel the difference. I mean, listen, Steph's been using it forever, and she's been talking about it since way before we even knew of them as a sponsor. So I believe you can change your life too. So we have teamed up with our friends over at Headspace so you can experience it for yourself. So give it a try. And there is a link in the description. Check it out. Check it out in one of the many meditations that are there. And try it, even pause it. Try it right now. And I'll put a link to the mini meditation in the description. I'm going to wait. It's pretty good, wasn't it? I know. It's really, really good. You're going to love it. I love their SOS mini meditations for a quick breather. They can relieve your stress. They brings you a moment of peace throughout the daily chaos. It's pretty great. And if you want to find some Headspace at headspace.com/Sith, you will get 1 month free of their entire meditation library. This is the best Headspace offer available. So go on over to headspace.com/Sith today. One more time, headspace.com/Sith. Makes it easy to learn and maintain a meditation practice that's going to improve your mood, and it's going to help you feel happier. Headspace, if it's not, it is one of these things there. It's not just a program. It really is a way of life. And it's not just for you. It helps you show up as a happier, more compassionate person for your loved ones. And even my friends, family, they notice that I'm in a better mood. Have people been noticing that about you?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, since you're always in a good mood. Headspace.
I'm always in a good mood.
You really are.
I wasn't a few years ago.
No, and there you go. And now, see, so go and check that out, guys. I think you're going to love it.
You know who definitely uses Headspace?
Who?
Jedis.
For sure. It's Jedi. There is no S, Steph.
Jedi.
There's no Steph.
Jedi.
There's no Steph? There's no Steph. There's no
I'm the Steph.
Are you excited for this DC fandom thing coming up this weekend?
Yeah, I am. I can't wait to see this Batman trailer.
You know,
I saw the pictures. I
didn't watch anything yet because I'm gonna try it. I'm sneaking out of my house to do reactions to all the stuff that's coming out. I'm pretty excited about it. But that's this week. So if you guys didn't know already that we have the Big Thing episode on for Spider-Man that's on right now. We have been doing Monday, Wednesday, Friday episodes of that show. We are back here with Sith Council. We are going to be doing all the rewatches. Don't you worry. We're back with Jedi next week. Anything else that we left out? We tapped through here. We got it. We covered the relationship.
I think the two main things that goes without saying is that this is one of the greatest shot films ever. Yeah. Every single
music, John Williams
in the music, like the Imperial March, we didn't get last movie.
No, that was the first time it appeared. Yeah,
and it's unbelievable. It's I think the best of all time.
It's iconic, and it's synonymous with Vader. It really is, and the music, the John Williams, Leia's theme, Yoda's theme, all of it. I mean, even and we also you talked about this last time, and we didn't touch on it today, but like the stuff that Han does, where he just hates 3PO so much, like when he takes credit for 3PO's ideas and everything.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we talked about this. This is the part that I realized on the rewatch. The way that they use humor in the least forced way possible.
Yes.
And it just works every time. Like I crack up like multiple times in these movies, and it's so casual.
It wasn't we need a joke here moment.
No.
Like I told you yesterday that I watched Black Widow. And everybody's like loving it. I didn't love it. I wanted to love it. I just didn't. And I felt a lot of those we need a joke here moments. There's a couple times when they had like David Harbour, who I love, like he's saying these jokes in the middle of nowhere. And it's like, that's when they're having him tell a joke right there. And
this
like,
one was just, it's not even telling a joke.
No.
It's a part of their personality.
Yes, plug the professor in the back, will you? Professor. As a friend call him professor, and he steals the guy's jokes, and like these little moments that are happening, like Yoda, with the no, and like that's just what he's pretending to be at that time. These real kind of humorous moments. That's the stuff that I love in Star Wars. That's the humor that to me fits the characters. I'm very critical when it comes to that in all movies. Is that I'm all for jokes, and like there's been many. I always use if you compare the Suicide Squad to Guardians of the Galaxy 2, which I compare all the time. There are phenomenal jokes that are written for Guardians of the Galaxy 2, but they're jokes just to throw them in there. This would be funny if we did this. The Suicide Squad are these moments of these people. Like there's a particular moment when they go to this village, and this entire back and forth between John Cena and Idris Elba are going through, and then there's like a tag at the end that is a riot, but it fits on what's going on, and that's what happens in Empire. Yeah,
completely agreed. It's just not forced comedy.
Yeah.
And when the problem with sci-fi, because we're talking about Chewbacca and Yoda, characters that look so bizarre if you're not totally invested in the story. You gotta believe it, or else you turn into spoof category like Spaceballs.
Right, that's right, and that's ultimately why Spaceballs works, because it's a good spoof off of
such a good spoof.
This movie for sure. But I think that's the majority of it. I'm excited to talk about
Ewoks.
Yeah, I am. I mean, I don't dislike the Ewoks. I'm always bummed when I realized that it was supposed to be Wookiees on Kashyyyk. But that's a whole conversation for next week. We're excited to do it. We're excited that you guys joined us here today. Look at this. Back there we go. Boom. Nailed it.
Frozen in carbonite.
Yeah. Mike is not even here, but he still makes the poster. Thank you guys so very much for joining us. I'm going to upload this immediately to make sure that it gets on the channel so we don't have to go through what we did last time. Thank you to Steph Sabraw. Thank you to all of you guys. Make sure you watch the Spider-Man rewatch. Check us out. I'm going to be doing reactions this week on the DC fandom stuff if it causes me to be sleeping in the garage for the weekend. So thank you guys so very much. Appreciate you. Leave your comments. We'll respond to them. Peace.